India's Catholics are pretending Mary is related to a Hindu goddess? Join us with his dispatch, Church Militant's Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, are India's Catholics really buying into the Hindu myth that the Blessed Virgin Mary is somehow related to a Hindu goddess?
She's just not related to a Hindu goddess. She is Mirabai, a Hindu goddess herself. And that is what Catholics in Mapsa and their Hindu counterparts. Mapsa is a town in Goa which has been a stronghold for Catholicism over the last 500 years since St. Francis Xavier brought Christianity to Goa. But at the Church of St. Jerome, Mary is being promoted as a Hindu goddess.
Okay, well, the Catholic clergy there surely are dispelling the laity of this false notion, aren't they?
Hardly, because what they're doing is actually promoting this false belief by placing a statue of Mary specifically for Hindus to come and worship as Mirabai, the goddess. And you can see the Hindus pouring oil on that statue. There's another statue of Mary for Catholics in the same premises, and Catholics there will be pouring holy water, but the syncretism is so deep that they basically exchange one another's traditions, and Catholics go and worship Mary's sister, who is Lahirai, in a temple that's 15 kilometers away from this church. So, Brad, it is pretty serious out there.
So, just to understand, Jules, you're saying the Catholic clergy are aiding and abetting this blending of false Marian devotion, this pagan worship with true devotion. The Catholic clergy are actually at the bottom of that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the tradition is local, but I have spoken to a number of faithful Catholics there, including an intellectual, an academic, Professor Oscar de Noronha, who has just written a column on this on his blog 2 days ago. And he's telling me that they are complicit in the whole thing, because he and others have also told me that there's been no catechesis, no attempt to dispel this false teaching. And this is serious because it's based on a myth. And the myth says that there are 7 divine sisters, 7 goddesses, and Mary, or Mirabai, her Hindu name, is one of these 7 goddesses. And the belief is that Mirabai was converted by the Portuguese missionaries to Catholicism, which is why she now bears the name Mary. And Hindus and Catholics both join together in these rituals to Mirabai and Lahirai. The Catholic Church, the cardinal, the priests, etc., have done absolutely nothing to dispel this false myth. Instead, from what they do there, they are actually promoting it.
Well, okay. Now, you mentioned a cardinal there. Is the hierarchy stepping in somehow to clear up this profound confusion?
Far from it, because the cardinal, now remember, Goa, Brad, has been called the Rome of the East. And the Cardinal Archbishop of Goa has the title of the Patriarch of the East Indies. But Cardinal Philippe Neri Ferrao, who was recently made a cardinal last year, in fact, by Pope Francis, we've written at least 5 stories on him. He's been promoting the syncretism. And the last we talked about it was last year, when priests in Goa were taking members of their congregations and going to different homes and temples, virtually venerating Hindu idols of the elephant god Ganesha, he did nothing, but on the contrary, he wrote, in response to our story, he wrote an article in the diocesan magazine Renovação, urging Catholics to imbibe the perennial values of Ganesha and the festival. But now Cardinal Philippe, instead of getting a rap on his knuckles, has actually been promoted to the dicastery for evangelization. I mean, a cardinal who is promoting syncretism gets the job in the dicastery for evangelization.
Okay, so the syncretism, this blending of false worship and error, theological error, with true Catholic faith, through true Catholic principles, and here the Blessed Virgin Mary versus mixed up with some Hindu idols. That's actually what you say, syncretism. Also, it's a type of false ecumenism to blur through and to blend all that together. That's not evangelization, is it?
Absolutely, Brad. But sadly, this has been going on for centuries. I mean, people talk about the traditional Latin Mass as the silver bullet to solve all these problems. And Goa has been steeped in traditional Catholicism, the Latin Mass, for centuries. But there has been deep-rooted syncretism, and scholars, I've been reading an academic book actually, by Alexander Henn called Hindu Catholic Encounters in Goa. And a number of scholars talk about how culturally, because goddess worship is so deep-rooted across India, that Catholics tend to, and Hindus, very easily mix up Mary, the mother of Jesus, with Hindu goddesses, and worship Mary as a goddess, and in turn, which the Hindus do as well. But then the Catholics, because of their past, their Hindu past, begin to worship the Hindu goddesses as well. And again, we come back to, the fundamental issue. The hierarchy is not doing anything to correct these errors. In fact, they are promoting them in the name of inculturation and community cohesion.
Yeah, that inculturation, that's an interesting word. There is an authentic type of inculturation, such, as, say, Japan has a reverence for the deceased, or, we can bring in purgatory, or maybe the communion of saints to Catholicize something that's neutral, but to actually blend pagan worship in with true Catholic principles. That's not enculturation, but I know they're promoting it as such these days, or overlooking the distinctions.
Well, last month, Brad, we did a story on Catholics in Goa, in another part of Goa, worshipping a Hindu goddess. In fact, the goddess of destruction. The name of that goddess there is Shanta Durga, a variant of the Hindu goddess Durga. And we wrote a story about this, but again, it doesn't seem to matter there, because they just look at us and say, oh, these, fundamentalist Catholics don't understand the local situation, etc., etc. And as you just said, authentic inculturation, which the greatest missionaries used as a vehicle to evangelize and to bring people to faith in Christ, is being abused and totally misinterpreted.
Yeah, that is amazing. And now it's going to be harder, because the very cardinal at ground zero in India has actually been promoted to the dicastery for evangelization, which they're going to point to that. And if he doesn't have a problem with it, or he's promoting it, allowing it, tacit approval, all of that, not correcting the clergy on this, it's going to be very hard to convince local Catholics that this is actually a bad thing in India. Well, thank you very much, Jules. During this month of May, Mary's month of May, let's remind our viewers, please pray to the Blessed Mother for all her children, wherever they may be, and that they will all develop a true devotion to her, that authentic devotion won't be mingled with these various lies perpetuated by her archenemy, the serpent. Thank you again, Jules, for your bringing us this well-rounded dispatch.
Thank you, Brad.